Started.
Okay, lovely. All right, thank you everybody. Thanks for turning on. What we're going to do today is just have a quick look at the workshop and the information you need for the next assignment. Fairly straightforward. Most of the stuff you've done in the English legal system. Just some basic information. Right, so the first point, analyse the roles and functions of the course within the British legal system. You've done all that already. So all you need to do as an introduction is identify the main courts within the British legal system and state what the function and purpose of them are. So civil courts, criminal courts, what are the purpose and functions? So identify the two types. At this stage, you don't need to go into too much detail. It's just a basic introduction because the rest of the questions do allow you to identify more relevant information. Okay, so that's the first bit. That's your introduction. Two types of courts, criminal, civil, and the purpose of those courts. Next point, identify the main types of courts within the British legal system. So this is where you develop what the civil courts are, what the criminal courts are, and then I think the next question might be to do with talking about the hierarchy. Yeah, so some of that, this stuff I'm assuming that you would have done when you looked at the English legal system. So identify the main types of court, talk about the criminal court and the different types of criminal courts and so on. Hierarchy, fairly straightforward. So where do we start from? You can start either from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom, it doesn't really matter. But again, in a diagram or tabular form is perfectly fine. Okay, so basic introduction to do with the courts. Right, the next bit's quite important, so court personnel. So again, you're dealing with the two streams of courts, so civil courts, criminal courts. Take them one at a time. Start with the lowest, identify the types of judges that deal with the magistrates' court or the county courts, and then move up the hierarchy and talk about the main judges in the Supreme Court and so on.
So what kind of assignment would this be? Essay format?
Essay format, yes. Yeah. Okay. So that's to do with the personnel. Function and roles then, so civil courts, again you're going into a bit more detail here, so it doesn't matter whether you identify it in the second part or in the introduction, so long as you've got all the details, it's perfectly fine. So civil courts, what type of cases do they deal with? Give examples. Those who want distinctions, you might go on to give examples of case law. Fairly straightforward case law, Donoghue and Stevenson, what happened in that case, that was dealt with by the civil courts. Talk about that very briefly. Types of remedies, again in the civil courts, what are the main remedies? Give examples, explain and develop those remedies. Okay, so first one I mentioned, types of cases. Developing the actual examples you give, and you might be able to distinguish between equitable remedies and legal remedies. Very important, there are two different types of remedies. So why do we have equitable remedies, for example? So for distinction students, you might consider example of an equitable remedy would be, any guesses as to examples of equitable remedies, anybody? Right, so that's something you might find out. If you buy a house and you're gazumped, the remedy you look for is an equitable remedy.
What's gazumped?
Find that word, find out the meaning of that word. Yeah, so if you buy a house and you're gazumped, you want a remedy. If you're gazumped, you're not happy, so you want a remedy. That remedy you claim would be an equitable remedy. Okay, so distinction students, you might want to consider issues relating to that. Sorry?
Sorry, I thought you said it's not legal in Scotland.
Yes.
It's
the same thing.
There's no difference. You sound like saying acquittable.
As in charges that you can get acquitted for.
Right, I see what you mean, a big part of, right,
So,
equitable, yes. Equitable, yes.
Now I understand.
So these are remedies that can be obtained in a breach of contract situation.
Right, okay, we'll find out more information about that and include it in your answer. Then the opposite side, so you've dealt with the civil courts. What about the criminal courts? What type of cases do they deal with? What type of sentences? Yeah, you laugh and joke about it, but I'd like to see a lot of development in your answer. Yeah, so it sounds... Sorry?
About we call it criminal courts or whatever.
Yes, yeah. So hopefully with your laughter you might give me a very
So we
detailed
say-
response. So it looks as obvious there, but when I'm marking your work, I hope that you would
Does
let
that mean you're
me...
going to go from my work with fine tooth comb?
Exactly, yes, I am. So yes, I'm certainly going to do that because your impression, the impression you're giving me is that it seems to be you know, a bit of a silly question.
No, I never said it was a silly question. There's no such thing as a silly question.
There isn't, no, and I shall tell that from your response.
So would we say such as indictment and summary and
Yes,
trial by the way?
yes, and give examples.
And give examples.
Yes, and your examples will be case law examples. Yeah.
If you were to throw a case in there that was tried both in the civil court and the criminal court, would we get
Yes.
extra marks for that?
It depends on what the question is. If the question demands you to consider both types, then yes, you will get higher grades. But if there's no need for you to include that, then probably
It's
not.
irrelevant.
It will be irrelevant. Yes, Michael.
You know the last video you did you put it on Moodle?
I have, yes. So what I've done, I said to the others, is I put it on private because I'm very new to this sort of thing. And for some reason it worked the first day, and then I went back into it a week after, and it just said this video is not available.
Yeah.
So now, when we finish, I'll show you it should be available because it's now public. So hopefully that it should work now. Okay, right, so that's the function of the criminal courts. Next thing, analyse the difference between sentences in the magistrates and the Crown Court. So here, the key point here is identify types of offences. And the reason why you need to look at types of offences is because depending on what the offence is, it might be tried completely in the magistrates' court, or in the initial stages will go through the magistrates' court and then eventually it goes up to the Crown Court. So give clear examples of cases that are dealt with solely by the magistrates' courts and examples of cases that are dealt with initially by the magistrates' court, but due to one reason or another, and you have to give the reason why the magistrates will not be able to deal with a particular case, and then that case subsequently moves up to the Crown Court. So your reason for the magistrates not being able to deal with it has to be clear. Right, limits then on sentencing, very important. So have a look at various cases that will be dealt with in the magistrates' court and suggest what the sentence might be based on either a case or an act of parliament, and then do the same for the Crown Court. So again, you're looking at the different types of cases that are dealt with in these different courts and suggesting with reference to legal authority. If you look at the Theft Act 1968, for example, that will give you a clear example of the maximum sentence. So all you're doing is pick an offence, pick a statutory authority and state the sentence that you might get for either being the case being dealt with in the magistrates' court. Common assault is a typical example of a case that will be dealt with in the magistrates' court. It's a summary offence, as you know, and the maximum prison sentence is fixed by statute. So refer to that legal authority to establish the different sentencing in the different courts. Right, any questions so far? No? Right, let's move on to the next bit. Evaluate the effectiveness of three types of sentences. So again, fairly straightforward. On the next slide, if I go straight to it, all you have to do is briefly explain what these sentences are. So what's a custodial sentence? What's an example of, or a case where the defendant got a custodial sentence? What's a fine? Give examples of that. What's a community order? Give examples of that. And because you're analysing, you'd have to compare and contrast the different types of sentences and identify any strengths and weaknesses or any benefits in one particular type of sentence over another. Okay, you might refer to various statistics as to why one might be used more than the other, and so on and so forth. So you're having a general discussion, developing your thoughts on these three types of sentences, and depending on how good your discussion is, you move from a pass to a merit to a distinction. Okay. Next point, what's the purpose of sentencing? So this bit's very important. There is a specific statutory authority, and the second is section 142. I've given you half of the answer there, so I'm trusting that you'll be able to find the actual Act of Parliament. So what is the purpose of sentencing? All you need to do, fairly straightforward, one sentence, identify the legal authority and state what that legal authority says. Because if you do that, you'll be suggesting the purpose of sentencing. So section 142 is the section you need. I'll leave you to find the name of the Act and the year. Okay? Depending on how generous I am, I might even give you the year 2003. I might have to give you the whole answer. But no, I'll refrain from doing it because I know you're all desperate to research the rest of the answers. So section 142, and the year is in 2003, all I need is the name of the Act of Parliament. And once you find that, go on to Westlaw or in your legal textbooks or criminal law textbooks, find what that section provides. Right, what is a sentence tariff? Again, have a look in your English legal system books. When we talk about sentence tariffs, what does that mean? So a bit of research for you to carry out there. And these are all very short and simple, straightforward points that you need to talk about. Now, discuss the current sentencing tariff. What you have to do is discuss this particular point in relation to a particular offence, and the obvious offence will be the offence of murder. Okay, so sentencing tariff. One, identify what a sentencing tariff is, and once you understand that, you'll be able to work out what the current sentencing tariff is. But related to murder, because the offence of murder identifies specific terms or maximum periods of time of custodial sentences. So that's why it's easy to use the offence of murder. If you use the book written by Gary Slapper, it's a fairly straightforward textbook which has all the relevant information in. Yeah, so have a look at that particular textbook. There are, I'm sure, copies in the library. If not, then you know, one or two might have copies of Gary Slapper. Right, section 269 of the Criminal Justice Act 2003, you've got a three-tier system for the offence of murder. So have a look at that particular legal authority and identify what the three-tier system is. Yeah? You look bemused or confused?
Is 147 of the Criminal Justice Act 2003 what we was looking for before?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think and it's just escaping my mind. I am, yes.
Christians shouldn't lie, you know.
No, you're right, yes, they shouldn't. So that's why I'm not going to pass any comment, in which case I'm not lying if I don't pass
your right to remain silent.
Yes, but anyway, so have a look at section 269 and then identify the three-tier system. Next point, discuss the difference between youth and adult sentencing options. So here again, use the offence of murder, very important. So, the offence of murder and have a look at the sentencing options or tariffs or terms that you get based on how old you are. So under 21, between 18 and 20 and also 17 and under. So it's all about numbers really, so have a look at the English legal system by Gary Slapper. Again, there's a whole lot of information regarding that in your textbooks.
We did that on the homicide one as well, didn't we?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Right, this bit's important. Again, you need your statute books or you need Westlaw. Analyse each of the following key aspects. So have a look at the Criminal and Justice Act, rather, 2003, section 269. So what is the provision under section 269 of the 2003 Act? Have a look at section 11 of the Crime and Disorder Act, 1998. What does that suggest? So all you're doing is identifying the provisions of those sections and explaining what it relates to. Section 50 of the Children and Young Persons of 1933, you'd come across a Latin phrase called Doni Inca Pax.
What's that? Incapable of crime or something
So,
like that. or-
Link that to Section 50 of the Children and Young Persons Act, and then comment on those provisions. So how do they relate to sentencing and crime and disorder and so on and so forth? Very important. So you've got 3 clear sections there that you need to read and analyse, discuss, explain how important they are generally in terms of sentencing and criminal justice. And I think this is the last question, if I remember well. Evaluate the impact, evaluate their impact. So those 3 cases that we've looked at, not cases, Acts of Parliament that we've looked at, evaluate the impact on individuals and communities. So what you need to do is have a look at those 3 pieces of legal authority and explain how they benefit communities in general. This is all about dealing with crime in society. So how do those 3 sections benefit communities in general? Okay, so that in a nutshell. There you go, and that's the end of the presentation. But it's just a quick summary of some of the things you need to think about for the next assignment. Any questions at all? Otherwise, if somebody can just please press the record button to just turn it off without breaking the camera.
This one?
Yeah.
Without showing part of your shoulder in the shot, because that is that is going to be